What is depression really? What is anxiety really? We are all fundamentally human beings. No other animal is capable that we know of thinking of things that do not exist, because we're talking here about the psyche, the human psyche, something that we cannot see, touch, hear, smell, whatever. Where it gets complicated is when the combination of your thought of all of those nasty negative beliefs, I suck, I'm a bad person, I'm stupid, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm depressed, look how depressed I am, I'm anxious, and those sensations combine. I have worked with people. I have had people report to me the same similar shift in their experience towards an otherwise very depressed, anxious, living with like basically depression and anxiety every day as just a normal part of life. I've had people, many people, come back to me after working with them a little bit and say, yeah, that's just gone. Like I just have this general sense of peace. Your very experience right here, right now. What is depression? The only thing that it is and could possibly ever be in your experience right now is what the red pill of this video is quite simply learning to... Hi everyone and welcome. I'm actually recording this introduction, I think like a month later after having filmed and edited this video. I, for some reason, really hesitated to release it, but I just wanted to give you guys a quick introduction as to what this is about. So this video is for anyone who is experiencing some form of anxiety, of depression, or really any form of psychological suffering, or even if you feel pretty good, but you're looking to just have some more peacefulness in your life. So if you have about 30 minutes to spare, you are welcome to skip the parts of this video that don't interest you. This might just help you or even change your life for the better, as it has changed my life and others that I have worked with in the past. So without further ado, let's get started.
What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch.
So if you clicked on this video, you probably saw the thumbnail with Morpheus holding out the red pill and the blue pill to Neo, right? This is one of the most iconic scenes of any movie. And this movie is perhaps one of the most profound metaphors of the nature of life, of who we are, and what we believe in. Why did I use this for this video? Well, if you guys are familiar with The Matrix, you would know that the general plot of the movie, or at least the beginning, starts out with questioning the existence that Neo lives in, right? He's living in the Matrix. Morpheus is the person who lets him discover that there's actually more to what meets the eye. There's more to what's actually going on. And thus the scene where he holds out the red pill and the
Blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe.
And that's a very important part of that scene. He says, believe whatever you want to believe. Keep that in mind. Or you take the
Red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
This is an analogy for choices that we have in our own lives between staying in what is comfortable, believing whatever we want to believe in. So the blue pill could be represented as things like coping mechanisms, defense mechanisms, drinking, drugs, addictions, all those things are different ways in which we as human beings, either consciously or unconsciously, choose to ignore something that's going on, whether that's the nature of reality or just some exam that we don't want to do or some problem we don't want to think about, right? We choose to ignore. We hide behind our belief systems. And don't get me wrong, belief systems are very, very important. All of these coping mechanisms, defense mechanisms, even addictions, they're not in and of themselves bad. However, when we're talking about something like depression and anxiety and other, let's just say, mental illnesses or different forms of psychological suffering that most human beings will encounter at some point in their lives, we're talking here about the psyche, the human psyche, something that we cannot see, touch, hear, smell, whatever. It's virtually inexistent in some ways, and yet very, very real. Our thoughts, our emotions, the combination of those two things are what make up part of our experience, at least. And that is very, very difficult to even comprehend, right? The nature of it, let alone treat, diagnose, so on and so forth. It's not like we can just go and cut open the body with a scalpel and see where the cancer is or the tumor. The tumors and the cancers of our mind are a little bit trickier to find. In this video, what I'm going to offer is between the choice of taking the blue pill and taking the red pill, if we consider taking the red pill and really looking at what is actually going on in our experience, what's actually happening, the reality is it's not this big scary like conspiracy theory. This might sound like even the analogy of going down the rabbit hole, right? Just like Alice in Wonderland. It's not even that, because the reality, guys, is that regardless of your belief system, of your race, your religion, your creed, whatever, any form of your identity, we are all fundamentally human beings, right? And as human beings, we are, that we know of, the only living creature on Earth with a prefrontal cortex developed the way that it is, that not only makes us, part of what we are as human, but separates us in a way from the entire animal kingdom. No other animal is capable that we know of thinking of things that do not exist, of attributing meaning to something that does not inherently have that meaning. If I show you right now, for example, this mug that I have, and I say, this is a mug, this is meant for drinking tea or coffee or any kind of beverage. Maybe a crow or a chimpanzee or, some other very intelligent animal might be able to look at that and see some kind of use, because there's animals that are actually capable of using tools that's already reserved for like a very, very intelligent animal. But it's certainly not on the same level as a human who looks at this and says, that's a mug. It's blue. It has a cool pattern. I don't know. It's meant for drinking tea, coffee. All these things are meanings that we are attributing to this object. And just like we are capable of attributing meaning to things that don't inherently have that, we are also capable of thinking of things that don't exist, imagining the future, thinking of the past, anything that is not right here, right now. Now, I know a lot of you might be thinking, oh, he's going to go off into some like new age rant or spiritual, this and that. I have, let me just tell you guys, just as many, if not more, issues with spiritual belief systems. And we're not going to get into that right now. I'm just saying that I am not selling you anything, right? I'm here to talk about something that is just very, very normal, that everyone is experiencing right now, that everyone knows and has experienced at one point in your life, and that is actually much, much more efficient than a lot of the different solutions that medical professionals or anyone might give to you to cure anxiety or cure depression. So before we explore more the notion of taking the red pill and going down the rabbit hole and what that means as this analogy, let's start with finding common ground. Okay? If you're watching this video, you are most likely a human being. You have thoughts, you have emotions, feelings, just like I do. And our experience, like I was saying, is made up of thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, a whole cluster of experiences, all basically coming together to form your experience. Now, if we take just a couple forms of psychological suffering that are without a doubt the most common, depression and anxiety, and we ask ourselves, what is that even? What is depression? What is anxiety? Now, maybe some of you watching right now currently feel depressed or anxious, or you have felt that at some point in your life. I would invite you right now to just take a second and think about, what really is it in your experience when you feel depressed, when you feel anxious? What is happening? To walk you guys through this a little bit, I'm going to give you an example from my own life, because some of you might be wondering, who the hell am I? Why am I talking about all this? So when I was between the age of, let's say, 19, maybe even like 18, 19 to about 23, I think, or 24, I was depressed and anxious. And it was kind of off and on. Of course, certain days were better than others. I was desperate. For 3, 4, 5 years, I was doing literally nothing but seeking out different ways to cure my depression and anxiety. So I really did do a lot of stuff. I did like yoga, meditation, therapy, different like support groups, many different kinds of spirituality, different belief systems, books. Like seriously, my library at one point was just nothing but new age, spiritual, psychological books. But anyways, back to the symptoms that I was experiencing when I was younger and how I alleviated them. Let's just say on a day-to-day basis, I was usually feeling either depressed or anxious, and just constantly brought down by these negative thinking patterns, usually to do with myself. Some examples that I can remember is I was doing different like odds and end jobs, like, working on a house and just lots of like manual labor jobs. I was kind of like scraping by at that time, just making as much money as I could. And I remember, like working in a yard or maybe a kitchen or something, and just constantly being plagued by these thoughts of like, basically, I'm not good enough. I'm stupid. I don't know what I'm doing. And there were days where I was just completely lost, in complete despair, gave up most of the hope that I had, because when you no longer think that you can get yourself out of the mess that you're in, that, my friends, is a very life-changing place to be in. And that's eventually where I got to. And so basically what helped me, to put it quite simply, was a certain technique that helped me to unvelcro the thoughts and the feelings that I was having. Okay, so there's a couple different angles that we can take to look at this. If you are depressed, if you're like me, you had recurring thoughts of such as, I'm depressed. That was the big one for me. It was like, oh no, I'm depressed. Oh my God, look how depressed I am. Look how obviously sad, and depressed and this and that I am. And then I would like kind of look at all these, oh geez, I didn't even go shopping today. I didn't even go to the gym today. I didn't do this, whatever. And it was just constant like, and basically unpacking that and unvelcroing the thoughts and the feelings and the sensations. Here's the thing, guys. What is depression really? What is anxiety really? Your very experience right here, right now. What is depression? That's the question that I'm asking you. I am not asking for the definition that you can go and look up on the internet. I'm not asking what you know about depression. I am asking you, what is your experience of depression right now? For those of you who are, or you can pick anything else. You could pick like, I don't know, anxiety, low self-esteem, whatever. It doesn't matter, because it's all the same thing. It all boils down to the same thing. What is it right here, right now? If I ask you what water is, the question that I'm asking in this sense is, what is H2O? H2O is made up of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. What is depression or anxiety or anything else? What is it made of in your experience? The only thing that it is and could possibly ever be in your experience right now is some combination of a thought and a feeling. And when I say feeling, we're going to be more specific than that, because we're really going to look at what is your experience of a feeling, even of depression. It's a sensation. You're probably going to have some kind of sensation in your body. And so to take an example of from when I was feeling, quite depressed, every now and then I have days too where I still kind of have that. And how I experienced it was negative thoughts and often a pressure in my head. Sometimes you have that like pit in your stomach, right? There's all sorts of names and expressions and this and that for, the knot in your stomach, that unpleasant feeling in your gut, in your stomach. Sometimes it's in your chest. Could be in your throat. I've never really felt that myself. That's only when I'm like choking up and about to cry. But these are made up of thoughts and sensations. Now, that is not the problem. The problem, and where this gets all super complicated, just like how we as human beings complicate everything, how we invent and make up things that are not real, we imagine things, where it gets complicated is when the combination of your thought, of all of those nasty negative beliefs, or thoughts, let's say, and those sensations combine. That is when you have these like, I suck, I'm a bad person, I'm stupid, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm depressed, look how depressed I am, I'm anxious, I'm worthless, this and that. All of those just self-perpetuating, nasty, unpleasant thought patterns are no more than a thought and a sensation. And what the red pill of this video is quite simply learning to unvelcro those two things. And here's what I mean by that. You can learn to look at your thoughts, right, as just thoughts, as noise, just like anything else that is happening. If you guys haven't already noticed, the nature of your thoughts is literally insane. Some of the thoughts that we have are completely bonkers, and you should not feel bad or guilty or anything about them. Now, of course, thoughts can also represent other things, and this is a very complicated subject, but let's just keep it simple. We are capable of having crazy thoughts, right? Now, let's look at sensations. If you currently have or are feeling some kind of like unpleasant sensation, or maybe the next time that you do, ask yourself this. What is that sensation in this experience without the thought? Can you feel the sensation stripped of any association that you give it, right? Just like we talked about earlier, we as human beings are the only creature that we know of that can attribute meaning to something that does not inherently have that. The feeling in your stomach is probably not what you think it is. Yes, it probably feels unpleasant, but if you sit with it for a while, just sit there and listen to it and just be with it. And don't, listen to the thoughts that you might have in relation to it, but just notice it. What might happen is that otherwise unpleasant, nasty sort of pit in your stomach feeling starts to like decontract a little bit, and all of a sudden it doesn't feel as intolerable or bad, right? All these, like, that's a bad feeling, that's a bad emotion, these are bad thoughts. Even I know I've been using this, like I've been saying bad thoughts or negative thoughts a lot. I'm not going to get into the whole negative thought, bad thoughts, this like positive thinking stuff. I'm not going to get into that, but just look at what it is right here, right now. Okay. And you're unvelcroing your feelings and your thoughts. With your thoughts, just listen to them like it's any other noise that's happening in this moment. Okay, so again, to give you a very concrete example of what I was doing that really helped, and this is a practice that's called noting. I guess it comes from mindfulness. And honestly, guys, like they use this in a billion different things. My personal opinion is that from what I have seen with cognitive behavioral therapy, I mean, they basically just took a lot of what was very, very old mindfulness practices and Eastern spiritual practices and incorporated them into the framework of a therapy. So this stuff is not new. This is research based, but the practice of noting consists of just noting what is happening in your experience right now in terms of your sense perceptions, such as hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching. And then, right, you have like your base sense perceptions. Sometimes it's enough to just like smell a nice smell around you, look at the tree or the sky to like kind of bring you back to the state of peacefulness, right? Well, you're going to be noting those sense perceptions, just what's happening right here, right now, plus the sensations in your body and the thoughts, because the thoughts are also part of your experience and the sensations are. And what you're going to do is look at those thoughts in the same way that you would look at the sensation of my elbow on this table, or if I take I wish I had a pen next to me, but if I take like this piece of paper and I just, look at it stripped of all of the different meanings, like, oh, it's yellow. Oh, this is my score sheet from the chess game that I played this last weekend, blah, blah, blah. I just like look at it and feel it. You're going to look at your thoughts in the same way and kind of note them to yourself. So it's called noting because you're going to note to yourself whatever it is you're experiencing. Sound of a bird chirping, sound of the dishwasher running, the feeling of the chair underneath me, slight tension in my back, whatever, thought about being depressed, thought about blah, 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 blah. And the more that you do that, the more you can start to see that there's the thoughts, right? And often what happens is the thought then induces this like kind of feeling in your stomach or somewhere in your body. Then that feeling almost like works as an engine or something and ramps up the thoughts again. And then the thoughts, then it leads to another thought and it gets more and more negative. If you are able to just look at the thought, notice it, and just note it to yourself. Be like, okay, thought about being a bad person or thought about being not enough. You don't know if that's true, right? You don't need to go into this whole like inquiry of, am I a bad person? Am I, just note the thought to yourself, break down, the chemical compound of your experience to its base components and just see them as they are. See them as they are, stripped of as much external meaning as possible. The sounds that you are hearing, really you can't even put words to. The feelings that you are feeling, the sensations, the smells, there really are no words for these, but we're having to speak in language and communicate, so we have to put some kind of association with them. But I want you to try to experience them as they are, as your experience is. What you'll see is that maybe this depression, this anxiety that you're experiencing is actually, it looks like a big, bad, mean monster, because all of these different things that are making it up, they're all like, mixed together, and it's just one big mess. There's actually a perfect analogy for what I'm talking about here. If you've seen the movie Spirited Away, Hayao Miyazaki's one of his best movies, there's a couple scenes, right, where No Face becomes this giant monster that's just trying to eat everyone, and then gets fed this like, what was it? It's like a little poison ball or some kind of ball or something, and then he like vomits everything and everyone up. And then for the rest of the movie, sticks alongside Sin and is just like this chill, nice, calm character in the movie. And then there's another scene in the movie where there's, I think it's called a stink spirit, right? The guy that like comes into the bathhouse and it just smells disgusting and is like this big gross blob. But her job and their job is to bathe him. Sin ends up finding like this little knob or something, just like a thorn in your side. She finds it and starts pulling it out. And then, of course, like the entire bathhouse comes and they're all trying to like pull this gross random objects and stuff, pull all of it out. And then they realize once it's all been like pulled out of him that it was some kind of, what do they call, like a dragon spirit? I can't remember what they called it, but it was like this huge, dragon, but it had turned into this horrible, gross, stinky, like spirit because of all this just junk that was like kind of poisoning. And it's a really good visual representation of kind of what I'm talking about, of how our thoughts and our feelings and when they're all thrown into this cocktail with our experience, the thoughts and specifically the negative thoughts really are just the perfect combination, along with a sensation that in and of itself is at best unpleasant, but not terrible. The combination of those two things really can lead to an experience such as you see in Spirited Away. And so if we take anxiety, for example, guys, anxiety, it's the same thing. Anxiety, for me at least, how I experienced it was definitely that feeling in my stomach, the pit in your stomach, which no doubt is an unpleasant feeling, plus a different kind of thought, a different nature of thought, such as something bad will happen or I'm going to fail. Right? A lot of anxiety can be specific to one potential outcome that could happen in the future, and it can really be unpleasant. But what I found is that there's also just anxiety that is simply something bad's going to happen. You don't even know how to express the thoughts. It's just this feeling that something bad is going to happen or something is wrong. Like, have any of you felt that? You can let me know what you think. This is how I would have phrased it, especially at that time. I currently really don't experience that much anxiety nowadays, although it does pop up every now and then. But when it was this feeling of something is wrong. Something bad is going to happen, if I had to put it into words, right? And the same process of like decomposing your experience and looking at it as it actually is, it works for anxiety as well. You have the noting practice where you think, okay, thought about something bad's going to happen, you just like literally type or think to yourself, say in your head what that thought is that you just had, and just note it and listen to it just like you would listen to the sound of a bus driving by or the sound of two people talking on a park bench or whatever. And then the feeling, and then turn your attention to the feeling. Where is your feeling? Is it in your stomach? Is it in your chest? And I would almost say, don't ask yourself what color does it have? What is No. That is a perfectly valid practice as far as I'm concerned, but that's not what we're going for in this example. What we are going for is stripping down your experience to the core of what it actually is that you're experiencing. Just feel the sensation in your stomach. Is that sensation in your stomach the proof that something bad is going to happen? Is it proof or the same thing as, something is wrong or, not necessarily. We have like unpleasant feelings all the time. Sometimes you get nauseous, sometimes you get sick. Unpleasant sensations and feelings are part of life. They don't need this extra attributed value of something bad's going to happen. I'm going to fail my test, this and that. Those are all just thoughts, guys. Those are all, like, seriously, just go watch Inside Out or something. Like, you go watch a Pixar movie and they can illustrate this better than I can probably express it. Anxiety is necessary at times. It's a part of our lives. But what is it really? It's imagination. It's imagining something that is not here, right now. I guarantee you, if you have a real problem right here, right now, if you, I don't know, like broke your leg all of a sudden, anxiety is not the experience that you're going to be having. It's going to be sheer pain. And, some people, like, you can even experience the pain, the physical pain, and yet feel perfectly okay psychologically. I've actually had this happen. I tore like every ligament, everything in my ankle. It would have been better to break my ankle because what I did was just tear everything else around it. But at that time, I was kind of coming down from this like spiritual awakening, let's say, and it was the worst pain I think I've ever felt. But at the same time, I was like, okay, my thoughts were quiet. I was just like there with my experience of, well, I need to call my friend over right away. I need to tell the kids I'm working with to run and find a coach right now. And that I think I broke my ankle or something. And then I need to go to the hospital. And then but there were no problems. There was no, dreading and worrying and this and that. I was just with the experience. And I should have probably mentioned this earlier in the video, but when we talk about just living in a way where you really are not constantly feeling anxious, worried, depressed, all the host of negative feelings, it is possible, guys. It is possible. In our society, what we are taught is to distrust things that come too easy, that seem too good or too easy to be true. And that's like very important because scams, for example, right? You get all sorts of like text messages, emails. You can get scammed so easily if you are not careful and you think, oh, it's not too good to be true. I think it actually is real, right? We're taught this, and yet it is so detrimental to our own experience because instead of, and I'm not saying don't go to a psychiatrist, don't go to a psychologist, don't seek support and help from your friends, don't go to the gym, don't sleep well. All of these things are incredibly important for your well-being, for your mental health and well-being. But that's not what we're talking about in this video. And what I am talking about, for many people, might seem like it's too good to be true. Everyone knows, I think you all know someone who clearly needs help, and you think you have something that could help. You have advice, right? You give it to them and they don't want it, right? Maybe it's someone who clearly needs therapy, or maybe it's someone who clearly needs to go to a doctor because they are, I don't know, like undiagnosed diabetic maybe, or whatever it is, but they're not going to do it. They won't do it. And that is an unfortunate reality of a lot of this, is that when given the opportunity between the red pill and the blue pill, there are a lot of people that would simply choose to take the blue pill. And that is totally fine. Part of my experience has learned to just accept that. But at the same time, I do also feel this like empathy towards those people, maybe some of you watching right now who do want help or need help and don't really know, where to navigate in the maze of your life, of your experience. Because I have been there myself. In some ways I still am, but I have been there. And if you go listen to, if you just go to the local, like the psychiatrist, psychologist, to your doctor, I'm telling you that you might fall upon someone who's really great and exceptional, right? And you're lucky if you do. Someone could change your life. Most likely, though, you're going to encounter someone who is reading off of a book, basically reciting what they know, and they're doing their best, or they're trying to sell you something, right? And I am not. Let me be very clear. I am not discrediting the importance of seeking professional help. If you are depressed, if you're anxious, there's absolutely nothing wrong with going to see a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or any professional, anyone. I don't care what you do, truly. But if it's not working, if you are like many people who find yourselves like, this isn't working, or maybe you're like, do I want to be on antidepressants my entire life? Whatever the reason might be for you to maybe want to take the red pill or look a little bit deeper into how things might actually be. It's not for everyone. However, ultimately, I'm not saying this to convince anyone. I'm just saying this out of the truth that I know for myself. That is the nature of things. If you, anxiety and depression and, many other mental disorders, I would say, but I'm really just using these two because they're easier kind of garden variety. They are nothing more than thoughts and sensations in your direct experience. In other words, yes, you might be lacking serotonin. Yes, you might not be sleeping well, all of these things. But here's my issue with that. Did your psychologist or psychiatrist measure your dopamine, serotonin, measure your levels? Do they know that 100%? Do you know that for 100% certainty? Or is that just a belief that you're telling yourself, or that medical professionals are telling yourself? The fact of the matter is, there's nothing wrong with those beliefs. It's perfectly fine. But those beliefs can so often end up being the bars that you put yourself, that you surround yourself, and put yourself into a prison, because then you say, that's just how I am. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. It's a disease. How do you know that? How do you know that? Please tell me how you know that, other than someone told you. A doctor told you, or you read it on the internet, or because, guys, I'm telling you, if you don't know anything about psychology or psychiatry, it's first of all, brand new science. It's still fighting for its position as a science. There is so much that we still do not know. And I'm saying all of this because, once again, if you are someone who just wants to feel better, then you have to be willing to try everything, and you have to be willing to discard what isn't working. Be honest with yourself. Use that doubt, that skepticism. If something isn't working, try something else. And this might not work either, right? Like there's like a billion different meditative practices, spiritual practices, just like, there are different religious schools. Pick what works for you. I'm just offering this because this is something that I was looking for. And I'm not kidding. I did so many different practices. I was constantly let down and upset. When something actually worked, when this actually worked for me, I felt like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, if I were to tell someone, I just feel like a fraud. I feel like a salesperson, like, no, but then I did this one practice and it actually worked after years of trying everything. So that doesn't mean it's going to work for you, but what it does mean is that I have worked with people on this. I have had people report to me the similar shift in their experience towards an otherwise very, depressed, anxious, living with like basically depression and anxiety every day as just a normal part of life. I've had many people come back to me after working with them a little bit and say, yeah, that's just gone. Like, I just have this general sense of peace. And what's cool is that it actually happened as a byproduct. We weren't working specifically with trying to untangle, depression, anxiety, and everything. So I'm not going to get too much into that, but I did just want to give you guys something And for those of you who are maybe interested, who want to learn more, want to know more, feel free to comment below. Let me know what you think. And if you want to know more, if you're interested in knowing more, or exploring in a deeper way, I would be happy to help. So I hope it wasn't too crazy and disorganized, and that you guys found something that was useful. So yeah, I hope you guys all are well, and I will see you in the next video. Just like the introduction, I am filming this much later than the rest of this video to tell you guys that if you like this, please, well, don't hesitate to like and subscribe, but also leave your comments below. Please do not hesitate with any questions that you have, and especially if you guys resonated with a lot of this, if you would like to take it further, consider this a glimpse. This is just sort of an introduction, like peeking your head down the rabbit hole and seeing how far down it goes. I promise you the rabbit hole is not scary. It is not this big, scary, unknown world. It's actually just what is right in front of you all the time. It's your experience and life as it has always been right here in front of you. But nevertheless, this is just kind of an introduction. And if you want to take it further, please let me know in the comments. I made this video because I want to help people, because I don't like knowing that others might be suffering like I have suffered before. And if I can do anything to help, I'm not saying that my words, that what I have to say here is guaranteed to help you, but if I can try, then I absolutely will try. So thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.